In case you're attending this webinar for the first time, I'll tell you a little bit about Videsh. And if at any point of time you feel that you're not following up, don't worry, we will be putting up a recording of this webinar on our YouTube channel as well. And you can keep asking your questions in the chat, and we will respond to them when we can. So I'll tell you a little bit about Videsh. Videsh was founded by three co-founders, Dr. Raj, Dr. Rajat, and Dr. Sridat. So these are award-winning scientists and PhD holders from IIT Madras, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and the Purdue University in the US. So when they were in the US, they realized the importance of research. And when they were themselves applying to these universities for their graduate studies, they realized that, research is so important, and it is sometimes very underrated when you are in your undergrad. So with this aim in mind, Videsh was founded to help students and working professionals like yourself to land your dream universities. And the main ingredient of landing your dream university, the main secret is to build a very strong research profile, right? So this is a little bit about Videsh. I'll take you through today's agenda. So this is a photo of them standing in front of the famous MIT dome. So yes, today's agenda is all about what is a research profile, research paper basics, how to identify a topic, that is how to identify your specific story when you're writing a paper, and then something about literature study, and a little bit about paper outline. So right from the title, abstract, introduction, everything till the conclusion and acknowledgements, I'll be taking you through each and every point, right? And then writing the manuscript, writing style of your research paper, and then even post submission, like how and which journals you're supposed to identify for submitting your papers. And then, like I said, something about how Videsh can help you to do that. So what is a research profile, right? So all of us have projects in our undergrad studies. All of us are doing some kind of projects, right? But then these projects don't usually have a unique or new research outcomes, right? So if you're just including these projects in your applications, it's not going to make a very good impression. So I've just mentioned these 5 things in the order of importance. So research projects will have the lowest importance in your profile because everybody is doing them, and that is why their value is reduced. Now, international research internships are very, very valuable, considering that you are, coming up with some new research outcomes. If it is just an internship at some firm, then it is not valued that much by any university, right? So it is definitely more important than the research project, but not as important. Now, what is really important is the papers, the research papers or review papers, the conferences, and the patents. Now, I understand that not all of you will have this under your belt right now. And this is where I'm going to tell you how to start doing that. Okay, it is very important to start at this point of time, right? So, yes, the research profile is divided into journal papers with new results, literature review papers. So we call them as research papers, review papers, and the preprints. So what is a research paper? A research paper is a paper which has a new research outcome, right? It is a very novel paper, and it is a actually full-fledged research paper, which is 15-18 pages long, and it has new research outcomes, right? What is a literature review paper? Literature review paper is basically a summary of 50 to 60 research papers written on the specific topic. Though it may seem like it's just a summary, but a review paper is also highly respected in every field, because if somebody is new to the particular field and they want to study that field at a glance, then they can read that particular review paper, because it is summarizing, it is taking out all the extract from those 50 to 60 research papers. Okay, so even review papers are very, very valuable. And finally, the preprints. So preprints is something that the students submit their papers to before they submit it to a journal. So generally the reviewing of a preprint is comparatively very lenient as compared to the actual journals. So if even if your paper is submitted to a preprint, it is considered as very, very important, and it is considered under a research profile. Okay. So these three things basically constitute a research profile. And if you have any of these things under your belt, then your profile is going to really stand out. Like I said, you don't necessarily have to publish. Okay, so it's okay if your paper is just in the preparation stage or you've submitted the paper. So this is a snapshot of Dr. Raj's resume, and in that he's written that his paper is in preparation to the Journal of Fluid Mechanics. So at that time when he was applying, this paper was not submitted, it was not published, but then it was in preparation, and he wrote that. Okay, so this paper got published later on, and then he updated that in his portfolio website. But then at the time of application, it was neither submitted nor published, but still he had written it, he had mentioned it in his publication section in his resume. Now, another important point I want to bring to notice here is that it's not just enough to, write that the paper is in preparation in your resume. Okay, it has to be endorsed by your professor in his LOR, his or her LOR, because that is going to give you credibility. Because the admissions committee, when they are looking at your application, they are looking at two coherent things, and if two things like the LOR and the resume are saying the same thing, then it is credible information. Okay, so make sure that if your paper is in preparation, or even if you have submitted the paper, make sure that your professor endorses it in their LOR. Okay, that is very, very important. So a little bit now about the research paper basics. Okay, so before we get started, many of you might be very new to research. You might or might not have a research background, but then, if you're attending this webinar, it is very evident that you want to build your research profile, right? I just want to get something straight here, that it is very important to have confidence in yourself and to believe in yourself that yes, I will be able to write a research paper. It's not a rocket science, but definitely it requires a lot of patience, a lot of confidence in yourself, and I would say a lot of literature study. So you have to really devote a lot of time when you're writing either a research paper or a review paper. It is very important, but it is also important that you have confidence in yourself, right? And you don't question yourself that do I have the skills to write a paper. It doesn't need skills, it needs patience, a lot of time, sincerity, and dedication. So make sure you have all that, and you will be able to write a very, very good research or review paper. So I'm going to tell you now about the literature study. Okay, so whenever you are starting to write a research or a review paper, it is very important that you do a literature study of many papers, depending upon the topic, right? So if you have selected a particular topic, it is very important that you do a literature study of at least 40 to 50 papers on the same topic before you start writing your research paper. Now, how do you do a literature study? It is divided into two modes. First is the in-depth mode. So in the in-depth mode, you are completely reading the paper, and every paper reading, you can say about 15-18 pages, considering that every paper on an average is that long. You take 4 to 5 hours to read every paper. Now, we would recommend, read at least the first 25 papers in the in-depth mode and read the other papers in the bird's eye view mode. So bird's eye view mode is just skimming through the basic paper outline, that is the abstract, the introduction, the tables, figures, and the what is the main point of the paper. So it will require 15 to 20 minutes per paper. But first, I would ask you to do an in-depth study of first 25 papers, and the rest of the papers you can do in bird's eye view mode. So that is the process which you should follow for doing the literature study. So that is the study before you start writing a paper. So we at Videsh, we encourage our students to, whenever they're doing a literature study, we ask them to write this on in an Excel sheet. So this is a snapshot of an Excel sheet with the leftmost column having the title of the paper that you've just read, and all the details C, D, E, F column from the paper, and then your 5 to 7 sentence summary in column G. So it is very important to jot down what you have understood from this literature review of this particular paper, because it so happens that after reading so many papers, it is human to forget something and to not recollect what you've just read in the first paper. So it is important that you document this somewhere, and that is why we encourage you to maintain an Excel sheet where you are writing summary, okay, a small 5 to 7 sentence summary of what you have understood from the particular paper. So start making this Excel sheet if you are doing literature study. It is very important and it really helps, right? So I'm going to be talking now about tools that you should familiarize yourself with when you're writing a research paper or a review paper. Okay. So there are three tools that we use at Videsh, that is Mendeley, Overleaf, and Litmaps. So Overleaf is basically a software that is converting your text into LaTeX format. And you can see that on the left, there is the code editor, and on the right, you can see the output, right? So what you have to do is you have to just enter the text and in the left. So here you can see that it is written Journal of Fluid Mechanics, and automatically the font, everything is converted into a LaTeX format, and you can see the output on the right. So the output on the right is a very, very professionally written paper. It is a very beautifully written paper. It looks very professional, and we encourage our students to use Overleaf. Okay, you can also, write the paper in Word format. That's not a problem. But then Overleaf gives a professional looking feel, and automatically it gives you confidence. Okay, so whenever you're starting to write a paper, when you do it in Overleaf, it immediately gives you confidence to see your name here as the first author. Okay, that really helps a lot, and that boosts confidence to a great extent. Okay, so this is about Overleaf. Now, Litmaps. Litmaps is another tool that you should use for literature study. So this is basically when you're stuck doing the literature study and you don't know which paper should I read next, because like I said, in the literature study you have to read at least 40 to 50 papers, and it is very natural for someone to get stuck that I don't know which paper I should read next. Okay, so I'm just going to show you how Litmaps works. So this is the Litmaps, and in the search I have put the title. This is Dr. Raj's paper, and I have just copied the title here. So whichever literature study you are doing, whichever previous paper that you've read, you can just copy the title and put it into the search engine here, and that will immediately give you an idea. When you click on enter, it will give you an idea of the number of citations that Dr. Raj's paper has used on the left. So on the left, you can see whatever citations are used in Dr. Raj's paper. And on the right, you can see the papers that have used Dr. Raj's citation. So this is a very, very, tree-like structure that gives you an instant visual representation of which paper I should read next. So for example, I'm reading Dr. Raj's paper, and I don't know which paper I should read next. Litmaps is going to give me a clear-cut idea of how I should direct my literature study. Okay, very, very important. The next is the Mendeley software. Okay, so Mendeley software is basically used for referencing your papers that you've just read. Now you can see that in the search section, I've again copied and pasted Dr. Raj's paper title. And when I do that, I get a search, result here that this paper has 26 citations. It has so and so readers, and there's an option here, add to library. So you can create your own library in Mendeley. So in addition to the Excel sheet that I just showed you, you can even create your library in Mendeley. So it also helps a lot, and you can just keep adding your literature study papers to the library in Mendeley. Okay, so that is also a beautiful way of documenting the literature study. Very, very useful and very, very easy. When you go back to literature study, like after 3 months, it's very, very useful then. because it so happens that out of 50 papers, it is very natural, very human to forget some of the things that we've just read, right? So Mendeley is for basically that. Now we are going to the actual writing the paper part. Okay, so we know now what is a research paper. We know now the tools for writing a research paper. Now we've equipped ourselves with the knowledge of the literature study as well. So considering that you have read a few papers in the same topic, now you're ready to write your paper. So how do you start writing your paper? You first identify the topic for your paper. Okay, topic selection is a very, very important point when you're writing a research paper, because that is going to give complete meaning to your paper. Okay, how do you classify a topic and how do you select a topic? Okay, I'm just going to tell you how to arrive at a particular topic. Okay, so identify your broad area of interest. That is the first step. Like for example, I've mentioned 5 broad areas of interest here. First is AI/ML, aerodynamics. Third is material science, economics, sustainability. So this is a very, very broad area of interest. Make sure you identify that broad area of interest first, and then after that you have to narrow it down to 2 or 3 specific topics. Okay, so machine learning can be narrowed down to scientific machine learning. Aerodynamics can be narrowed down to so many different topics. So you have to narrow it down to 2 or 3 specific topics. Okay, that out of which you will select a particular story, and you will select a particular topic for your paper. Right? So how are you going to identify your topic? You are first going to identify 5 papers from the literature that are similar to the topic that you've selected. So out of the literature study that you have done, you have to select 5 papers from literature that you are interested in. Now these will pertain to the 2 or 3 narrowed down topics that you've just narrowed down from a very broad area of interest. Okay, and then there's another rule, like how you should pick papers. So pick papers with very good number of citations. Okay, so 50 to 100 citations is the minimum of which paper I should read. That is also dependent on the number of citations, right? So then the next part is reviewing the first 25 papers. Okay, so now you've selected the topic. Now you are going to select the first 25 papers out of the literature study that you've just done. Now, how are you going to do that? First is the citations. So make sure that the paper you are reading from the literature has at least 100 citations, and don't read papers older than 2015, because papers older than that are considered not modern, and they have a little bit of less relevance. So make sure that you're reading papers that are new, that are from 2016 or 17 onwards. Okay, so make sure you do that. On Google Scholar, you can find out how many citations a particular paper has and when it was published. Okay, so you can find out both the number of citations and the published date. So what is a citation? A citation is a substantiation of a particular paper. That is, a particular paper is being referenced by some other paper, and that gives it more credibility. So the more number of citations a particular paper has, the more credible it is for you to read it, right? That is a citation. So what pattern do you identify when you are doing your literature review? How are you going to identify your main pattern, and how are you going to decide your story? Because now at this point, it is very important that your paper has novelty. Okay, if you're writing a research paper, it is very important that your paper has novelty. So make sure you focus on the novelty part and make sure it has new research outcomes, right? So the first part I told you, this is the broad domain. Second part is the narrowed down topic, that you have 2 or 3 topics that you've selected. And the third will be your specific story. So this will be the story that you select for your paper, and your whole paper will revolve around this story. Like I said, very important to maintain novelty in your result. Yeah, so this is about how you identify the story of your paper. Now we are going to go to the paper outline. So after identifying the topic, you have to broadly jot down the paper outline. Okay, so paper outline is nothing but the skeleton of your paper. And later on, when you're done with the paper outline, you just have to expand this paper outline. Okay, so what does the paper outline consist of? Paper outline consists of title, abstract, introduction, figures, tables, results, right? And this is the full blown paper with 12 parts. Okay, and the paper outline can be just expanded into these 12 parts. Okay, I'll just tell you how. We'll get started with the yeah, so one thing I want to mention here again is that you can use, like I said, you can write the papers in overleaf template like I showed you before, or you can use the MS Word template. I'll just show you how the MS Word template looks like. So this is how the MS Word template looks like. We will be sharing the link of this template also in our description. So if you description of the video. So if you don't, want to write the paper in overleaf and you're just comfortable to do that in Word, you can even do that, and you can edit the paper here as well, right? So let's get started with the title and abstract, the first two very important parts of the paper outline. What is a title? A title is basically a 12 or 13 word, name that you are giving to your paper, and that will immediately tell the reviewer what your paper is all about. Okay, so it is giving a clear cut indication of what you have done in this paper and what your specific story is. Like, for example, I just want to show you Dr. Raj's paper. Look at the title: A Machine Learning Aided Global Diagnostic and Comparative Tool to Assess Effect of Quarantine Control in COVID-19. So it is completely giving an idea, very clear idea of what this paper is going to be about. So make sure that your title is explicitly expressing whatever you want to express, right? It is very important, right? And even if you're writing a review paper, it is important to mention that in your title. Okay, so if you're writing a review paper, it is important that you write that this is a review paper in your title. So a literature review paper in so and so, it is important to mention that, and the reviewer will immediately understand that this is a review paper, right? So the next part is the abstract. So for your ease of understanding, we have split the abstract into 4 parts. The first is the large scale problem. Second is the specific challenge. Third is the specific metrics and details of your approach. And fourth is the wider implications, right? So we basically call this hourglass approach. I'll just explain you how. So the first part is the large scale problem. So this is basically you explaining the reviewer what your problem is about. So this is a large scale problem, you're not delving into specifics, right? And an abstract is basically a 200-word essay. Okay, so make sure you're keeping it as brief as possible, but still you're dividing it into these 4 parts. The second part is a specific challenge. Now this is where you have to be specific. You don't have to talk general. Okay, you have to be very specific about what challenge you are addressing in your paper, right? The third is the specific metrics and details of your approach. Okay, so here you have to mention that how you are tackling this particular challenge, what metrics you're using to tackle this particular challenge, right? Very, very detailed approach, but still keep it very brief, right? And then the fourth is the wider implications. So what implications is your paper going to have? Just mention it, mention wider implications, don't be very specific again. So if I have to just summarize myself, how will I summarize myself? I will just rate the first and fourth parts of the abstract as a wider implication, so applicable to a wider audience, like the hourglass. And the second and third will be a very specific challenge, and that will only be for the people who are experts in that particular field, right? Because you are addressing a specific challenge, and then you are also mentioning the metrics. So 2 and 3 topics of your abstract will be limited to the experts of that field, right? So how you are going to remember this abstract? Now you have to remember the hourglass. Okay, and you have to divide your abstract into 4 parts. The next part is the introduction section. Okay, so introduction section is also, it plays a completely pivotal role in your paper, right? Be it review paper, be it research paper, it plays a very, very important role in the paper, and that is going to determine if the reviewer is going to read the paper or not, right? Introduction is going to give you a complete idea of what novelty you have achieved in your paper. So this is basically 1,000 to 1,500 word essay, and in that also we have divided it for you for ease of your understanding. But remember that introduction should very, very heavily focus on the novelty of your research, right? Maintain novelty of your research, because that is, like I said, it is very, very important, and the reviewer is going to look at and is going to decide if they want to read your paper further or not. Okay, so how have we divided the introduction? This has 5 parts. The first part is, what is the problem? So what is the problem statement that you're addressing? Second is, how are people trying to solve this? So this is referencing to the literature study. Okay, so this will have you to give references. Be very, very precise when you are just forming the paper outline, and make sure that you are mentioning the bullet pointed introduction, okay, with the references, so that at the end, when you have to add the references section, you can just take it from the introduction, right? It is very important that you do that. Then how are people trying to solve this problem? That is the second part. The third part is, what are the issues with the current approaches? So what is the current challenges that people are facing, and what do you propose? So up till the third point, you can mention references and a bullet pointed way to write your introduction. The fourth and the fifth point heavily concentrate on what novelty you are bringing through your paper. Okay, so what do you propose, and what are the large scale implications of your solution? Okay, so fourth and fifth point are heavily focusing on how you are addressing the problem, right? So introduction is up to 1,500 words you can write in the introduction, and you have to make sure that you are including these 5 points when you're writing the introduction. Again, like I said, write the introduction when you're writing the outline in a bullet pointed way, and mention the references also. Okay, so the second and the third point will require you to mention references, and make sure you add them in the outline. Now, the next part of the paper outline is the figures. Okay, so what are the figures? The figures are something that connect your paper to each other. So look at this. This is a very, very visual graphic representation of so many things that the writer of the paper wants to express. So instead of writing an essay or writing something, it is very impactful if you are just mentioning figures. And when you're writing writing figures, it is very important that these figures are connected to one another. Okay, so your first figure has to be connected to the next has to be connected to the third. So it is very important that you establish this connection, right? And figures are the backbone. Why do we say that now? Because they are a visual representation of your paper. Whenever a reviewer is looking at your paper, they are looking at the figures. They are looking how coherent and how well the figures are, and how what they are expressing. Okay, so if your figure is giving a very good visual representation of what you're trying to say, then it immediately impresses the reviewer, right? It is very important that you write good figures. Now, what constitutes a beautiful figure? I'm going to give you 6 pointers that you have to keep in mind when you are drawing figures. Okay, so first is the high resolution. High resolution figures are very, very important. Whenever you are converting the paper into PDF, make sure that whenever you zoom the paper, the figures are not blurred. Okay, so maintain high quality resolution of each and every figure that you're drawing. The axis and the label should be easily readable. You should maintain consistent choice of colors, font, and font size. This is very, very important. You have to align it well with the sub figures also. So if one figure needs a sub figure, you have to make sure that it is very, very neatly labeled and neatly drawn, and it is very coherent with the rest of the figures. Like I said, titles, legend, and sub-figure numbers are very important, and size and colors of markers are very important. So coherency is very important when you're drawing a figure. High resolution is important. It is important that you're labeling your figure And tools for making figures, like we are encouraging students to use Canva and Adobe Illustrator, but then again you can go also ahead with the traditional forms like Excel, like PPT. So that is completely fine, that is up to you. Right now, this is an example of a very very good figure. This is this is the paper which is written, which has figures labeled, and figure 1 is labeled, the description is written, so figure number is there, figure title is there, sub figure number is also mentioned, right? So C, A, B, C, D, E. So sub figure title is mentioned, sub figure is also labeled, right? So it is very important that the description is maintained and written at the end of every figure. Don't just draw figures just like that. Also explain to the reviewer what that figure is all about. So very important figures. You can also insert figures in overleaf. The next part of the paper outline is the tables. Now, like I said, the tables are like the figures. Tables are also very very important, and they give a clear cut idea into what you're trying to say. So instead of just writing text, if you're able to explain it or display it in the form of a table, nothing like it. Okay, so wherever you are able to eliminate text and write tables or draw figures, you should go ahead. But then, like the figures, some things are very important when you're writing tables also, like you have to label the tables, you have to write the description, you have to maintain coherency of the font and everything. So that is very important. So just like the figures, tables are also extremely important in the paper. You can also insert tables in overleaf. Okay, the next part of the paper outline is adding the references. Okay, so I mentioned in the paper outline that you should write a bullet pointed introduction, and then you have to write bullet pointed references also. So there is a separate section that in the paper it is included, and it is called as the references. So it basically states what references you have used in your paper to write your papers. So you have to mention these references, and you have to mention it in very detail. So like I said, in the introduction itself, it is important that you mention references. So it is every journal has a specific type of references formatting that they require. So you have to check it before submitting to a journal, which in whichever journal you're submitting. Okay, so references is just details that you're giving about the literature study that you've done for the previous papers, right? Now that we are done with the paper outline, we are done with the basic skeleton of the paper. We have written the title, we've written the abstract, we've written the bullet pointed introduction with references, and we've also drawn our figures, we've also written our tables. So we are ready now with the skeleton of the research or the review paper. So the skeleton is ready now, and what we have to do now is we have to just keep adding sections. Now acknowledgement is a simple section. You will know whenever you do a literature study of 40-50 papers, you will automatically know what to write in your acknowledgements. Okay, you just have to mention that who you want to acknowledge it to and how acknowledgements are written. So this is basically a very simple short section, and you can get to know how it is done from the literature study as well. Now that we are done with the paper outline, now is the time when you're going to expand the bullet pointed introduction into a 1500 word essay. So this is the point where you will expand your introduction. Okay, so now we are in the process of writing a research paper, actually writing the manuscript of the research paper. We are done with the skeleton. Now we just want to expand and properly write the research paper. Okay, so first point, how you will start by doing that is you will expand the introduction. Okay, so another thing I want to mention is do not use chat gpt or any writing tools, because in most cases the reviewers have detectors, and it is going to cast a very very bad impression. I mean, imagine the kind of efforts you've taken to write a paper, and it is just rejected because you were using some software to write the paper. So don't do that. Be very very authentic in your approach, and we don't recommend using chat gpt or any other writing tools. Okay, Now we go to the conclusion section. Now we are just moving towards the end. We are almost done with the paper. Now we move to the conclusions paper. So a conclusion, like an abstract, is a 200 to 300 word essay, and it summarizes the paper and it mentions the actual takeaways. So what have you concluded by writing this paper, and what are your actual takeaways? That is the conclusion section. Okay, the length is same as the abstract, so 200 to 300 word essay, and it you just have to mention the takeaways here. Okay, like I said, now you have to write the entire paper manuscript. Okay, so now you have to expand every section, and you have to now we are moving towards finalizing the paper manuscript, right? So just a few things before I come to the writing style of the paper is that if you want to add any supplementary materials, if you want to add any supplementary materials and you just can't add a full paper, you can mention that in the supplementary materials section. So here, this is Dr. Sridhar's paper, just part of Dr. Sridhar's paper. And this PDF file, he has written that the PDF file includes a supplementary text, figures S1 to S6. So he's mentioned the supplementary materials that he wants to add in his paper. So this is in addition to the references. If you want to mention anything additional, you can write it under the supplementary section. Now, I just want to take you through some of the writing styles mistakes that students make when writing a paper. And we obviously don't want you to make those mistakes. And it is very important that you have this at the back of your mind before starting to write a paper, so that, you don't have to make these changes after you've written a paper. Okay. So the first is your writing style. So use an active writing style instead of a passive writing style, right? What is the difference between active and passive? So the passive sounds something like the imaging was performed using SEM. And how does the active look like? We performed the imaging using SEM. So the passive writing style is more of like you are at the back end and you are observing something that is happening and you are not in any way involved in whatever is happening. And the active writing style is more authoritative. It is more, like you are in control and you are doing it. Okay, so the experiment you are performing, we perform the imaging. So it is assertive and it gives an impression that you are doing something. So make sure your writing style is active. Okay, next is the tenses. Okay, so past and present tense should be very, very carefully used whenever you're writing a paper. And as a rule of thumb, what you can remember is that you have to use present tense for analysis and conclusions and past tense for experiments conducted. So keep this at the back of your head when you're starting to write a paper, because making the tense changes after you've written the manuscript is very cumbersome. It takes a lot of time and it is time wasting actually. So it's important that these things, these mistakes that students make beforehand, so that you don't waste your time later on. Okay, yeah, the last thing, the last mistake and the most common mistake that students make is the grammar and spelling mistakes. Okay, I mean, in today's world where technology is giving you options like Grammarly plugin, it's a strict no to make grammar mistakes. It's strict no to make spelling mistakes. Okay, so what I would what I would suggest at this point is take a full printout of your manuscript and go the old fashioned way. Okay, take a printout, take a highlighter in your hand, and read your own paper and try to play the devil's advocate. Try to find your own mistakes and try to be a critic, okay, to your own paper. And wherever you find mistakes, just highlight it with the highlighter, and later on you can make those changes. So I suggest every student who has written the manuscript to take a printout, and with a highlighter in his or her hand, you have to just be your own critic and to see if you've made any grammar or spelling mistakes. Okay, so the next part is, now you've written the paper, you've found out mistakes, if any, you've corrected those mistakes. Now you have to identify a journal for submission. Okay, so how do you do that? How, on which factor do you identify the journal? Okay, so if your paper is on a specific topic, you have to search which other papers were published in which journal referring to the same topic. Okay, it is almost impossible that you're writing a research paper in some topic that no one else has written a research paper in. That is not that is impossible. So whenever you are trying to identify any journal, make sure that you search the journals in which other papers in the same area were written for. Okay, so make sure you do that. And impact factor is another very important aspect that needs to be considered if you are submitting a journal. So how to rate if a journal is good enough or not? By the impact factor. So I would say for undergrad, 1 to 3 journal with a 1 to 3 impact factor is considered very good. And if your paper gets accepted to one of these journals, it is considered very good. Okay, so impact factor is basically how is it decided? It's decided on the number of citations. So impact factor of less than 1 is considered low, but then impact factor of 1 to 3 is considered good enough. Okay, so what we suggested, how we are doing it with our students, is we are maintaining a Excel sheet again, and we are mentioning the impact factor of a particular journal, and we are also mentioning the cost of publishing. So whenever you want to publish a paper, you might be knowing that there's a publishing cost that comes with, whether your paper gets accepted or rejected, that is a different thing. But just for submission, there is a publishing cost. So maintain an Excel sheet, jot down 2, 3, 4 journals that you wish to submit your paper to, write their impact factor in one column, write the cost of publishing in another column. And that is how you can decide in which journal you have to submit your paper. Okay, so this is a very good way of doing that. Then now what happens after you submit the paper? So what are the processes that happen after your paper is submitted? So what happens actually at the back end? So first, the editorial review takes place, and here you have to submit your research paper or review paper with a cover letter. So you're getting another chance to glorify yourself, to upsell yourself through the cover letter. And at every stage of this process, you are notified if you are accepted or no to the next stage. Okay, so if you are rejected at the editorial review, you are notified that your paper won't be going ahead to the peer review, and so on. Okay, so the post submission has 4 stages until your paper is published. The editorial review takes about a week or so. The peer review takes about 2 months. The revision, if any, in this phase, you might get a feedback from the review committee that, okay, your paper needs so and so revision, so you have to revise the paper and then submit it again. So the actual publication takes around 4 weeks. Okay, so the entire process takes about 2 to 3 months post submission. Okay, and after every stage you're notified. I also want to mention here that it is very common for first timers to get their papers rejected. Okay, so don't be disheartened if your paper is rejected for the first time. If you're submitting to a journal, it is very, very common. And even great professors, experienced professors at MIT get their papers rejected all the time. So it's completely common, and even professors are facing paper rejection. So you have to just get back up, and you have to start working again. Okay, so nothing to be discouraged about, and nothing to be sad about. Okay, you just have to get back up and start working again. Right now, I just want to tell you how we at Videsh are helping you to build your research profile, how we are helping you to write your research and review papers. Okay, so now we are in the month of April, and for those of you who want to apply to the fall 26 cohort, now is the right time to start building your research profile. Okay, because in this phase, what we are doing is we are writing a review paper for our students, and that usually takes about 3 months. Okay, so considering 3 months, April, May, June, so probably by July you will have your manuscript ready, you will have submitted your paper, and you can add that under the publication section of your resume. And then a month or so after that, it takes to perfect your application. So all the parts from university shortlisting, SOP, LORs, your exams, your resume, your portfolio website takes about a month or two to prepare. So consider by the end of August or beginning of September, you will be ready with everything with your research profile when the admissions open. Okay, so generally the admissions open in September or October and they close in December. So it is very important that you start working on your research profile now itself. Now is the perfect time, and as the months will pass, you will get less and less time to focus on the building your research profile part, which is a very very crucial point in your application. And like I said at the start of the webinar, it's a research and review paper writing is a complete game of patience. Okay, you have to be disciplined, you have to be patient, and it's something that you just cannot finish in 2-3 weeks. Okay, so start doing it right now. Now is the right time. Okay, so this is general, profile analysis assessment that we at Videsh are, giving to our LTM students. So if you are interested in, collaborating with us to work on a review or research paper, we are sending you this assessment tool because we want to, understand how well versed you are with research. Okay. So this is just a Google form and it is for our better understanding of your profile. So now these are just some testimonials that 23 and 24 were incredibly successful years for our students, and students got admitted into very very good universities. We ended up publishing over 54 review papers and research articles submissions. Our students ended up going to a lot of conferences, and we have formed a lot of SOPs, LORs, resumes, and we've built a lot of portfolio websites also. So why is a portfolio website important? The importance of a portfolio website is that you can mention all your achievements, all your everything that you're incredibly proud of on the website. So it is completely about you, and it is a website that gives a complete insight to the admissions committee on what you are. Okay, so at a glance they know what this person is about, what are his or her biggest achievements, and you can even add photos there. Okay, so if there's a photo of you taking some kind of award, you can't do that in an SOP or a resume, right? So that is why you need a portfolio website. Okay, we even have a Discord community. We have newsletters that we are sending to the ones who've subscribed. So this Discord community, if you're a part of LTM, we connect you to your other peers. So there you can, that channel is very very active, and you can connect with one another and you can discuss like if you've got any admission, if you're stuck somewhere, so you can discuss with your peers also. Okay, I just want to show you some sample papers from LTM1. Now, these students, you won't believe that they had no experience in, research. But then these students have written beautiful papers, and, they were efficiently guided by us to write these papers, and we are extremely proud of them. Some of these papers even got published in very, very reputed journals. These are screenshot of some other papers that these students had written, and mind you, they had no experience, they had no prior experience in research. Okay, so it is completely possible. It just requires you to be focused and disciplined. Okay, some other testimonials that we have got from students now, the admissions also have been coming in for 2025. So we are every day we are receiving many messages from students who are telling us that I got into this university, I got into that university. So these are some of these testimonials that are saying that. You can also visit our website to hear some video testimonials that our students have given. So on the website they are available. Like I said, these are just some of the universities that our students have got into. There are a lot more, and we are extremely proud of all of our students. Again, a few testimonials. You can have a look at the video testimonials, like I said. And then what we help you with, actually we help you to identify good problem statements. So we basically help you to identify the topic for your research paper, right? Because the topic, like I said in the beginning of this webinar, that defines your entire paper. The story, your specific story is the definition of your paper. So we help you to identify good topics. We teach you how to write your research papers. Now, in this webinar, I've just explained you, over the slides how to do that. But then what we are doing with our LTM students is we are actually helping them and guiding them through every step of the way by teaching them how to write these papers. Okay. We also help you to set a realistic timeline, okay, to publish papers in the next 3 months. So depending upon your schedule, if you're a student, if you're a working professional, some of you might not have time on the weekdays. So we make a realistic timeline for you depending upon your schedule, and that timeline you have to follow. Okay. It is very important to be disciplined. We also help you with identifying the journals to which you want to submit your papers. So identifying a good journal is very, very crucial. It also happens that you've sometimes written a good paper, but then it is not submitted to a relevant journal. It ends up getting rejected. Okay. We don't want that happening with you. So we are even helping you to figure out which journal you can submit your papers to, right? Again, the resume on your left is just the list of projects that you've mentioned, and we are realistically expecting you to write a resume on your right with the publication section, the conference section. Like I said, it is okay, completely fine if your paper hasn't been published yet. You can still write, mention that paper in preparation or submitted under the publication section of your resume. Okay. So the resume on the right looks much better, and it is going to have 5 to 10 times more value than the resume on the left. Okay. This is just a glimpse of how actual, when you go to a top graduate school, how life looks like there. And I just added this image as a motivation for you, so that you meet a lot of culturally different people, you learn a lot of things, and it is a completely versatile experience and something to really motivate you. Okay. So one more thing, I just want to add that for students who want to transition to machine learning or publish research papers in machine learning, our scientific ML bootcamp is now live. This is basically for students who want to have an experience of machine learning in their resume, or and for students who want to make a complete transition to ML. So how we are helping students with this bootcamp? We are helping students with all the backgrounds. You can see all the backgrounds here. You can transition to machine learning. It is an upcoming field. A lot of jobs are being created in this field, and a lot of top universities also have fields like machine learning that need ML experience. So we are helping you to write research papers in machine learning by combining machine learning and your domain, at an intersection. So using scientific ML, we are writing research papers in ML and your domain, right? So if you want to have an ML experience, that is also possible through our bootcamp. I've just mentioned the curriculum here. So if you go on our website, you can see the curriculum in the PDF. This is just a snapshot of the PDF. So introduction, scientific machine learning, technical overview, running ODs in Julia's neural network introduction. So everything plus two research projects. So this is basically two research projects that you will be doing in this bootcamp, and these are just not just toy projects. These are actual projects that nobody else has done, and you can very proudly add them to your resume. Okay. I'll just take you through. So these are the projects that you will add to your resume, and these are the projects that you will do. Okay. And you can publish your first ML papers like this. So actual aim of this bootcamp is to have a paper publication, and it will elevate your profile by 5 to 10 times. And our students who have done the bootcamp and published papers in ML have actually received admits from very, very good universities. Okay. So these are different plans that you can choose from. I'll just take you through these plans one by one. So first is the student plan. I'll just open the website. I'll just show it to you on the website. Yeah, so this is the student, this is the first is the student plan. This costs 17,000 rupees. And what you're going to get in this course is that, you will learn why ML is important. You will understand the basics of Julia programming. You will also learn COVID-19, these projects that I just told you about, COVID-19 modeling project and black hole visualization project. You will do these projects actually, and you will add them to your resume. So this is the student plan. The second is the community plan, that is an extension of the student plan. Now, in this plan, in addition to the student plan, this will have you to, have an interaction with our co-founders. Okay, so whatever doubts you are having, whatever questions you are having, you will get an access to a community of collaborators with whom you can share your learning and start. So you will get, interaction with your peers, and you will also get, assignment checking, doubt clearance, so interaction, asynchronous interaction with our co-founders. So that is the community plan. The next plan is very, very important, and I want you to pay attention to this plan, because in this plan, a researcher plan, you will be actually publishing a hardcore research paper in ML and your field of domain. Okay, so you will actually be publishing a paper, and this of course has very, very a lot of weightage when you are writing that in your profile. Okay, so a researcher plan will, in addition to the student and community plan, it will also give you a chance to publish your research paper in the field of ML. The last plan is the industry professional plan. Okay, so this plan is basically, it will take through, in addition to the student plan, the community plan, it will make you tackle problems with ML and which are relevant to the industry. So this is basically for working professionals, and in this we will write a research paper pertaining to problems that are industry specific. Okay, so this is also a very specific type of plan. Again, if you are working, if you have work experience and still you are aiming to apply in fall 26 cohort, then you should go ahead with this plan. Okay, so these are the 4 plans that are available with us, and these are just some of the testimonials that our students have written. And many of our students, like I said, have gotten admits from top universities. That is, we are extremely proud of them as well. Yes, and the last thing, if you are interested in either LTM or the SciML Bootcamp, send an email to us at hello@flyvidesh.com. Just don't send one-liners. Mention your name, details of work, when you're planning to apply for grad school, and why you're interested in the particular program. Okay. So it is very important to assess your profile before we recommend which program would work better for you. So whenever you're sending a mail, just don't send one liners, send emails in detail, right? Also attach latest version of your resume when you're doing so. Okay, so this is about it. I'll stop sharing my screen, and if you yeah, I think we are almost it's 8 o'clock. So Dr. Raj and Dr. Rajat are also on this call, and if you would like to take 1 or 2 questions, I'll just stop sharing my screen.
Yeah, I'll answer one question which has come on the chat. Two questions actually. One is related to the fact that in the LTM, do we cover a research paper or a review paper? So in the LTM, mostly review paper is covered, but in the scientific ML bootcamp, the main aim is to publish an original research paper. And the second question is for someone who is working and wants to aim for masters, what should the path be? So currently, the main aim should be as a working professional to build your research profile, because to apply for a master's, work experience is very good. If you augment that with the research experience, that will make the profile very strong. And research experience should be built way before you apply, because it takes time to. So LTM phase 1 is a 3-month program. Then we'll submit to the journal. It takes usually 2 to 3 months for the journal to respond, to give their reviews. So overall, you can think of it as a long process. Even if you are applying later, it's actually better to start doing research a bit early, so that by the time you apply, the research profile is strong.
There is a question which has been messaged to me directly that do you provide AI courses to biotechnologists? So the SciML bootcamp which Radhika discussed, that bootcamp is actually relevant for people from many different domains. So we will combine AI with biotechnology, and you will get a chance to work on a research problem statement at the intersection of both these fields. So yeah. Yeah, so I think it brings us to the end of the session, and I would like to thank Radhika for uh, conducting a very nice session. And just for a parting off, I'll just like to add that you have around 4 or 5 months remaining now for building your research profile. So I will encourage all of you to have a very laser focused approach and be committed to uh, 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 be committed to working towards writing a research paper and submitting it to a journal. Even if it doesn't get published, it is fine. But your aim should be that by the month of November or December, the paper should be submitted to a journal. Then you can add it in your SOP and your resume as well.
Okay, thanks everyone.
Thank
Take
you
care.
everyone for attending. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.